Good evening and welcome to our nightly telecast of Just the News, where we've wrapped up everything important in the country and around the world in about a 10-minute bulletin with no fuss and no emotion. It's almost as deadpan as the news we remember when we were kids. Let's get straight to it. A cautionary warning for those of you who are having some pandemic fatigue. There's a lot of pandemic in this bulletin because that's what's going on in the country right now. So I've warned you, spoiler alert for you. Let's get straight to it. The central government has decided that come the 11th of April, the vaccination for COVID will be available in public and private workplaces or in offices. The centre has even written to states and union territories to prepare themselves and make adequate preparations for the same. Now, in a letter addressed to state governments, Rajesh Bhushan, the Union Secretary for Health, has said, and I quote, a substantial portion of the population aged above 45 and are in the organized sector and organizing a vaccination at the workplace will not only be convenient but also avoid travel and thereby reduce the risk of exposure to COVID-19. The government also just yesterday had said that the vaccination will not be opened up to everyone anytime soon. Rajesh Bhushan said the aim is to protect the most vulnerable, and the aim is not to vaccinate whoever wants but whoever needs it. Of course, the workplace vaccination won't work for most people in the state of Maharashtra, where private workspaces are closed until the end of this month. Maharashtra, though, has also put out a statement saying that the state is running out of COVID vaccinations and has urged the centre to supply it with additional stock. Now, the Health Minister of Maharashtra, Rajesh Tope, has said that we do not have enough vaccine doses at multiple centres. Health workers are now turning away people. We cannot afford to slow down the pace of vaccination. We need to generate immunity among the population and we need to vaccinate 5 or even 6 lakh people a day, end quote. Meanwhile, Andhra Pradesh has apparently also sent an SOS to the centre saying it may run out of vaccine doses by Thursday. The government has asked the central government to release 1 crore doses of the COVID vaccine to Andhra Pradesh immediately. Meanwhile, Union Minister for Health, Dr. Vardhan, has said that there is no shortage of the COVID vaccine in the country and the government is provided required quantities to all states. He said, and I quote, no state is facing vaccine scarcity and neither will we allow them to face scarcity. All states are being supplied with vaccines as per their requirement. This was communicated to them at the beginning of the meeting on Tuesday, end quote. India, in the meantime, has recorded 1.15 lakh cases in just 24 hours and 630 deaths. That's the highest single-day spike ever, including all of last year. And it beats Sunday's high of 1 lakh cases because this is now 1,15,000 cases. Maharashtra remains the worst affected. Punjab, Chhattisgarh, Karnataka also showing sharp numbers there. The Health Ministry has said that 70% of the deaths have occurred due to comorbidities. I'm going to give you a really quick wrap on what various states are announcing in terms of restrictions because there are so many details. But I do request you to go through the source articles at the bottom of this video if you want specifics about your own state. In Bengaluru, the police have brought in section 1441, which allows them to limit movement of people. This is not section 144, where not more than 5 people can gather. So according to this, under this order, they have said that gyms, swimming pools and party halls and residential complexes will be closed. Punjab has announced a night curfew now across the state, as opposed to the few cities it was in up till now. The night curfew will begin at 9 p.m. and end at 5 a.m. Also, political, social, cultural gatherings in Punjab have been stopped. Gujarat has announced night curfew in 20 cities, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. 100 people will be allowed at weddings and grand events have to be postponed. Jharkhand government has closed schools, parks, gymnasiums, exhibitions, fairs and sports events for the time being. The Mumbai Civic body, the BMC, has put out another set of restrictions over and above what the state had released a couple of days ago. Beaches will remain closed. Housing societies, remember, with more than 5 cases will be sealed. No going or coming unless it's a medical emergency or there's a student going to answer an exam or someone going to get a vaccination. There will be police personnel stationed outside of sealed buildings to ensure these rules are followed. Students who have to physically answer examinations will have to carry an ID card and be accompanied by a guardian or a parent. Movements of maids, cooks, drivers, house help, nurses will be allowed during lockdown hours from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. on all days. Civic body has also allowed 24/7 online food and essential supplies to be delivered on all days of the week. Now, this is different from what was announced yesterday. In a judgment that sort of raised eyebrows across the country, the Delhi High Court has said it's now mandatory for people to wear a mask even when the person is driving in their car completely alone, terming the vehicle a public place where COVID rules apply. It also said that masks act as a, and I quote, Suraksha Kavach, which would prevent the spread of COVID. The court said that when a car stops at a traffic signal, drivers often roll down their window, and at that point, COVID could be contagious and anyone can get affected. Stepping away now from the news on COVID and back to the Antilla bomb scare case that was brewing in Maharashtra. It just got much more interesting. Sachin Vaze, the suspended police officer who is currently in NIA custody, has handwritten a letter to the NIA accusing former Home Minister Anil Deshmukh, and he's a member of the NCP, and current Maharashtra Cabinet Minister Anil Parab of asking him to extort money. Now, Anil Parab is a member of the Shiv Sena. According to India Today, which has also published a copy of this handwritten letter, Sachin Vaze also said the NCP chief Sharad Pawar was against his reinstatement into the police force, to which he's written that Home Minister Anil Deshmukh told him he would convince Pawar Sahib for that purpose, and he asked me to pay 2 crore rupees for the same. I expressed my inability to pay such an amount. On this, the Home Minister asked me to pay it on later course. Sachin Vaze has claimed that Anil Deshmukh called him to the Sayadri guest house in October last year and told him to collect money from bars and restaurants in Mumbai. Now, this was the main accusation based on which the High Court ordered a CBI inquiry, and now Anil Deshmukh has resigned. Although Sachin Vaze has also now accused Cabinet Minister and Shiv Sena leader Anil Parab, saying that he was asked to meet him in July-August 2020 and asked to extract 50 crore rupees from the Saifi Burani Upliftment Trust, which was facing an inquiry. Vaze also claimed that Parab called him in January and asked him to collect 2 crore rupees from BMC contractors that were under investigation. Talking about former Police Commissioner Parambir Singh, Vaze has said that he had informed him about the extortion demands, to which Singh suggested that he not act on those demands. An update on the Maoist attack in Chhattisgarh. Maoists have released a picture now of Rakeshwar Singh Manhas, a CoBRA commander, CRPF Jawan, who was abducted during that attack in Chhattisgarh on the weekend last week. This is evidence that they have him in their custody. Maoist spokesperson confirmed that Rakesh Singh Manhas is in their custody and the government should announce the name of the negotiator for his release. Manhas has been missing since the 3rd of April when an ambush took place against the security personnel in Chhattisgarh, where 22 Jawans were killed and many others were injured. Let's take a look now at news coming in from the world of business. In a boost to payment banks, the Reserve Bank of India has now doubled the current deposit amount from 1 lakh rupees to 2 lakh rupees. It's likely that migrant workers, low-income households, small businesses and unorganized groups will benefit most from this move. And of course, payment banks will benefit most from this move. It comes as a relief to several people from this group who were obviously adversely impacted during the pandemic. Now, payment banks are a type of savings account which can accept a restricted amount of deposit but cannot issue loans or credit cards to their customers. Good news on the economy. The International Monetary Fund on Tuesday raised its projection of the Indian economy to 12.5% from the 11.5% it had projected earlier. This is for FY 2020. GDP growth for FY 23 is pegged at 6.9%. We have to remember, of course, that the growth will be higher compared to the previous year, which was abysmal. So really the growth in FY23 is what we need to be looking at. Also, remember last week the World Bank increased our forecast for 22 as well from 5.4% to 10.1%. So all of this is good news for our economy. Let's take a look at the news coming in from across the world. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said the country is facing a very serious third wave of COVID-19 as the country's most populous province is struggling with rising cases. Trudeau warned that hospitalization is increasing, ICUs are filling up, and COVID variants are spreading. Canada has reported over 1 million cases altogether and over 23,000 deaths so far. US President Joe Biden has said all adults in America will qualify for the vaccine in the next 2 weeks. Now, his earlier target was the 1st of May, but he's brought back that target now to the 19th of April. US has administered 150 million doses of the vaccine, and 75% of all senior citizens have received at least one dose. Biden did say it will take several more months for most adults to be fully vaccinated. So in the meantime, they need to maintain social distancing and wear their masks. One piece of positive information before we leave you for today. According to the New York Times, a new vaccine for COVID-19 is being developed right now and is entering clinical trials in Brazil, Mexico, Thailand, and Vietnam. What's different about the vaccine? Well, it's going to be called NDV-HXPS. It's not just the name. It will use a new molecular design that's widely expected to create more potent antibodies than the current vaccines that we're using. And the difference between the current vaccines and this one is that it won't need high-end machinery to be produced. It can be mass-produced in chicken eggs. Now, if this proves to be safe and effective based on the trials, it will be a game changer for underdeveloped or developing countries who are currently struggling to get vaccines from richer countries. The first phase of the clinical trials will conclude in July, and the last phase could take several months more, but it's still something to look forward to. Well, that's a wrap of the news from me. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, share this video with anyone you feel who might find Just the News helpful. Subscribe to our YouTube page and leave us a comment on how we can make this better for you. Thank you for watching. Good night.